ago. He said he watched on average 4 hours of film every single day this offseason. And I believe him when he says that, mostly because he is a football junkie. He can't get enough of the game. And, we have seen that film study show up a lot in training camp, just with the ability to not just locate the ball in the air, but then, in phase, make plays on it. And I think playing across from DJ Reed, he's poised for a really big season that will justify the Lions drafting him where they did. And then if can we get to Hutchinson for a minute? I feel like we need to hit this. I can't stress enough how well he was playing last year. I just went back to double check this today, but he was leading the NFL in pass rush win weight per Pro Football Focus last year at 38.3%. And the next closest player was Myles Garrett at 23%, followed by these edge rushers, Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, and Trey Hendrickson at 20%, followed by Jared Verse, Chop Robinson, and Zadarius Smith. But I digress. But
too soon.
Playing at a level that was so much higher than anyone else at his position last year. And, we've heard that he looks even better this year than he did last. And Campbell yesterday was talking about, his ability to bend, his hand mechanics, his hips, his flexibility is all improved. And I think one thing that gets overlooked, or at least undervalued in Hutchinson, for as much as we talk about his motor and his athleticism and his relentlessness, is his football acumen. Like, we forget what a cerebral player he is. And, it's one thing to hone your mechanics in your hands or add new pass rush moves in practice. It's quite another to then know when and how to deploy them in a game. Like, for example, last year, Hutch almost exclusively had a spin move to the outside. He and the coaches worked a lot on developing a spin move to the inside. And so if we go back to week 3 last year against the Cardinals, which is actually one of the most recent games that he's played, as crazy as that is to say, he was battling that day with Paris Johnson Jr., who has become one of the better, maybe even one of the best young left tackles in the NFL. And all day long, he was hitting Johnson with this chop move. And he was waiting to break out the spin. Late in the fourth quarter, defense is trying to close out the game. Hutchinson hits him with the same chop move, but then pairs it with this inside spin, catches Johnson totally off balance, and gets home for the sack. And that's an example of his football IQ at work. He knows when and how to maximize everything he has in his pass rushing arsenal. And having talked with him about it, to him, it's all about making a different move look like the same move until the moment of impact. And I'm curious to see how he utilizes his hands, his improved mechanics, his improved flexibility this year, kind of in conjunction with his football IQ. I think we're going to see all kinds of different developments for Hutch this year, including one, J. Raj, that you saw in camp that was unlike any move we had seen him use at any point over his Lions career.
I am going to tell you about our friends over at Sleeper. You can use the code HMA to get a $100 deposit match up to $100. And I'm going to tell you more about them right after a word from our sponsor. Be right back.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using the code HMA. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
I still think it might have been an accident. I don't know. He started a spin move, stopped halfway between, shuffled past Sewell, and Sewell looked at him like he was crazy because it didn't make any sense. It looked like he was moonwalking past the offensive tackle, and he won the rep. And I asked him about the other day, and I mean, even Hutchinson looked at me like I was crazy, like he didn't remember it. So I don't know what happened there, but I do think that there are going to be maybe irrational expectations on Hutchinson because some of the numbers you brought up, right? Like these rates were so much higher than everybody else. But what we're not talking about is, he kind of caught this wave of inferior talent to start last year. There was a lot of injuries on this line schedule, and talk about taking advantage of mismatches. Even that game against the Cardinals, he lined up against the right tackle 36 times versus the left tackle 17 times. And so the Lions were very adept at putting him in positions to take advantage of an inferior talent that allowed him to, build up this massive lead. And I think there's going to be this situation where we talk about the Lions. They might be a better team this year, but they probably won't win 15 games, right? Hutchinson might be a better player. He might not have 2 sacks a game for the entire season. Like, he still might finish with 12, 14 sacks, whatever, and still be a clearly better player than he was last year, which, by the way, it's crazy. It's crazy because when you have a serious injury like that, we talk about all the time. We talk about it very recently with DJ Reader. We could talk about it with Graham Glasgow. When you break a leg or you tear a quad muscle, it's usually the second year back that really you kind of return to physical form. And there's nothing we've seen on the practice field that doesn't suggest that Hutchinson has kind of cleared all those hurdles, that he's 100% of the way back or 110% of the way back, depending on whether you want to believe in the improvement. Now, 8 months after the injury, 9 months after that injury, it's baffling to me.
Yeah, I've been talking to some people close to Hutch recently, and like everything I hear, and going back to like his first injury at Michigan, where he had this ankle injury and it ended a good season. He was thinking about coming out for the draft that year, ends up coming back. Everyone I've talked to said his work ethic and that rehab and just getting back on that relentless work to get back on the field was unlike anything they've seen. And like, this is a guy that puts no limitations on himself. Just talking to how he's attacked this most recent rehab cycle, probably started back up around February, spring, and was, kind of maybe some early mental hurdles. But once he got the rhythm and was actually putting weight on his leg again and, running and jumping, like, he was like, okay, I feel good. Let's do this. And that's right now, he's probably thinking about setting the NFL single season sack record. Like, that's the way he thinks. He's a long-term thinker. He has all these goals. There's a story about how when he was in middle school or elementary school, he said, I'm going to play at Michigan, and he did it. He became a Heisman finalist. So this is a guy that, like, in his mind, and to his credit, he's pulled this off pretty much every step of the way. Why not? That's his whole mindset. And like, to pair that mindset with the athletic ability that he has, because anyone can be like the try harder on the football team that's like, oh, why not me? And then you have physical limitations that say, why not you? That's not the case for this dude. He was a second overall pick for a reason. Like, he's a freak. He can bend, he can spin, he can move. You see the dance background on the field translating. Like, all of this stuff is like in his arsenal, in his tool bag. And you see him picking up new things all the time. And like, it's not a surprise. It wouldn't surprise me if he's still trying to like, hey, what can I add? I feel good from injury. Now, what can I add on top of that? How can I stack that? So I'm not putting any limitations on this dude. Like, he is one of the fiercest competitors I've ever seen on the field. And, who am I to say he can't replicate those numbers? And I know it was against, inferior talent, but